All right. Hi, I'm Ricky from Consultants, or one of the tender trainers. Um, I help subcontractors with their tendering, basically. So my goal is to help you make this process as simple and successful as possible, so you can win those bigger contracts with less stress. I try and do these lives on a regular basis. Feel free to jump on and drop me a question, DM me anything you feel like would be interesting to cover. This is basically your opportunity to hit me up about anything. All right, cool. Let's get into it. So this week, the topic that I've chosen to discuss is mitigating the impact of inflation by being dynamic with your pricing. So yeah, inflation, right? Inflation impacts all subcontractors. It's something you can't avoid. Um, it's been very evident, hasn't it, over the last couple of years. The key with inflation is being able to quickly pass it on onto the clients and not having to take the hit yourself. When you have to take the hit yourself, it's going to impact your bottom line. It's going to impact your profit. We really want to be protecting that profit. So being dynamic with your pricing, this is going to help you mitigate the impact of inflation, and it's going to help keep your business profitable. So I have a few tips on being dynamic with your pricing that I'm going to talk about now, that you can implement. So my first tip is obtaining quotes from suppliers and subcontractors, for that matter, for every job that you price. So this is really about not getting complacent with rates. So if you're pricing, if you're getting quotes for materials delivered to that job during the program, and the subcontractor quotes for that job, you're really mitigating these inflation pressures. The risk really is getting complacent with rates. Are you using material rates that you've used on previous jobs and not being able to get the materials for that rate? So getting quotes on each and every job. This is what we do when we tender. We get quotes for that job on every job that we price up. This is really mitigating this risk and ensuring that you're going to get materials for the price that you put in your tender. Okay, the next item that I have as a tip is it's risk. It's including risk. So if you hold the risk of inflation, which if you're a subcontractor, most contracts, you will hold this risk of material inflation or labor inflation. Usually these are passed down to the subcontractor. If you're holding this risk, include it with your price. So you're including risk to really protect your profit. And how do you do this? So basically, if you hold the material inflation risk, have a think about what materials could go up during the life of that program, life of the project program. If it's 10%, work out how much that will cost you in pounds. It may be £5,000. If that is likely to happen, then you should include that £5,000 within your price. So if you hold the risk, you're entitled to do this, and you should be including risk appropriately if it's likely to happen. What you're doing here is you're mitigating the impact of the inflation, and you're protecting your profit. So very importantly, if you hold the risk and it's likely to happen, include the appropriate amount within your price to mitigate it. Okay, next point here is keep in contact with your suppliers. Hopefully you're all doing this and you're doing this well, but really being in tune with your suppliers, speaking to them regularly. This is going to help keep you aware of upcoming changes that may impact you during the program of the project. If you're in tune and you have good relationship with your suppliers, you can keep up the forefront of that. Usually they're the ones who know this information first, right? So be on top of it, be ahead of it, be ahead of the game with this stuff. Know what's coming up, know what's going to happen. Next point is a good one I like. Next point is negotiate with the client to mitigate inflation pressures. So a couple of examples that I have here that in ways that you can do this. So one is early procurement and storage for the example of material inflation. So a lot of companies are doing this, and a lot of clients are doing this at the moment. But basically, it's buy all the materials at the start of the job, store them somewhere. Yes, it costs more. Yes, it may cost a little bit more to do it that way, but you're mitigating prices going up in the end, so it could save you in the long run. Clients are comfortable with that, being sure on how much things are going to cost. So that is one option to mitigate it via negotiation with the client. The other is the complete removal from the contract. The risk sits with you. So what am I saying here is take it out of the contract, that the risk of inflation sits with you, and put it back on the client. You can negotiate with the client this, and the way that would look like is this. My price, if I'm holding the risk of mitigation, includes the risk of mitigation, so it is inflated. If you would like to see a cheaper price and hold that risk of mitigation yourself, which may or may not occur, then you're going to see a cheaper price at this stage. Some clients might be happy to take on that risk to see a bit of a lower price at this stage. That's another way that you can negotiate with the client to mitigate the inflation. All right, my next point is really consider not taking on long-term fixed price contracts in times of volatility. So if the client's offering you a contract of 2 years fixed price where you're responsible for any price fluctuations, and we really are expecting to see price fluctuations, consider not taking that on. Really, you really want to be pick and choosing your battles, right? And in times of volatility, I think that's even more important and more relevant. Pick and choose your battles. And this leads into my next point, which is don't be afraid to walk away if you're not comfortable with the terms. So in the first instance, when you're presented with the terms, I would say try and negotiate them with the client. If the client is not favorable on changing any of the terms, and the terms aren't favorable to you, i.e. they're really risky, don't be afraid to walk away. Again, I want to highlight this: pick and choose your battles, especially when it's crazy times with price fluctuations, etc., like it has been in the last couple of years. Right, so they're my tips. When I train clients on putting together stronger tenders, being dynamic with your pricing, which enables you to quickly pass on inflation pressures. This is a big part of the approach, right? We want to be getting this right. So in summary, inflation is a constantly changing factor. It always will be. It might not be as volatile, but it always is relevant. So you need to be on top of your game with your pricing in order to stay ahead of the curve and quickly pass those pressures on to the client and not wear them yourself. So being dynamic with your pricing, it can be a bit challenging. It can be a little bit more work, but it's really necessary, especially in today's economy where we're seeing a lot of volatility. It's also going to help you bring clarity, and it's going to help you with your decision making, and it's really going to help set you up for a successful and a profitable project. All right, cool. That's it for today. Stay tuned for my next live. It will probably be next week or the week after. I'll cover another impactful tendering topic. Thank you, and see you again soon.